Good evening. Welcome to the Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I'm your host, Joshua Solomon, and with me, as always, is JP Marzullo. How you doing, JP?
I want to say that just once. I want to say that to you. Yeah, I'm doing okay.
Can you do it as fast as me?
Probably not. Yeah, I've had an interesting day yesterday at the State House, testifying for the bill I talked about last week,
Good.
Bill 1102. There were more people against the bill, and that's what I spoke up about, against the bill of they're trying to stop breeders from breeding certain kinds of dogs and cats, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And so that was good. The person who presented, representative who presented the bill, had about 10 minutes to speak, and the rest of us had 3. Now, if I could talk as fast as you, I could have probably gotten in all my notes.
That wasn't even planned.
I'm not able to do that. So yeah, things are okay.
Well, I've been saying the same thing every Wednesday night for about 6 years.
And you
now.
even left out honorable.
Oh, I blew it.
That slows you down.
Honorable JP Marzullo. I apologize.
No, so that's fine. That's fine.
As always, we are sponsored by the Wilson Hill Pistol Club, the oldest sports shooting pistol club in the state since 1935, I believe. The open membership monthly meeting is tonight at 7 p.m. at 1732 Lakeshore Road, right here in Manchester. You can find us on the web at wilsonhillpistol.org, where you can get the training schedule. You can pay for training. You can sign up for training. The next training session is this Saturday. It's the Safety of Fast Handgun Fundamentals and Safety Training from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. It is the fundamentals class for new shooters.
When is the one where you can try any gun? You talked about any pistol?
The try gun, I think we're doing in May.
In May, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
We had Vince on.
I had some people
a
ask me
couple
about
of
it,
weeks
actually.
ago. So, but that'll be in May, and we'll start talking about that more as we close. So our try gun, as JP mentioned, we had a club member on a couple weeks ago. The try gun is where we have dozens of pistols for you. We have instructors and safety personnel on hand, and you can try out different types of firearms before you go and buy something that you can't handle or you don't need, or etc. Right? We don't want you to get pressured into buying something that you can't handle, and we don't want you to have an impulse buy for the newest, coolest thing, right? We will have all of those available for you to try. Just about anything you can possibly think of, at least one of our members owns. And so it's more of a safety and familiarization time. We get a big turnout. It's one of our biggest events at
I could
the club
see that,
each year. I mean, we have our annual barbecue in October, but this event actually draws a lot more people too.
That's great.
So,
I think it's a great idea.
And it's, again, so we have all the safety people on hand, and you can, we show you, and it's really good for people to not go out and impulse buy the wrong thing.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
So why don't you introduce our guest?
So tonight we have with us Representative Karen Reed, who happens to represent my town, Deering, and Francistown. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
I should say, how are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for having me back.
How you doing?
How are you doing? I'm doing good.
So why don't you tell the people what committees you're on, and maybe there's something that's going on at State House they need to know about, and then we can take it from there.
I am on criminal justice and public safety, so we have a lot of gun bills. We have open field, the purple paint bill, private property bills. Purple paint bill.
It's hard to say.
So maybe
somebody trying to make it illegal to paint my house purple?
No. So if you were walking in the woods and you saw purple paint on a tree, would you know what that meant?
It could be the trail, maybe.
That's what I would think.
Outline it. No, it doesn't.
Well, there's all kinds of reasons why
to
somebody
cut it
would
down,
paint
maybe,
a tree. You'd mark it for removal.
Yep.
You mark it for being posted no hunting. You mark it for a trail.
Well, nope.
So we're wrong.
We're all wrong. So
none of that. Huh?
the bill was presented. I go by the name and not the number. I can't remember all these numbers, but they want as a posting, no trespassing. They want people to paint their tree. A purple mark on their tree to let people, hunters, whatever, know that that's posted as no trespassing. You know, signs work really well, you know, with the name and the phone number. Yeah, so we
Can I? How was that brought up? I mean, what
It's
made
probably somebody who wants to post their property,
doesn't want the sign
has a
up?
large property, and doesn't want to buy a whole bunch of signs and spend the time tacking them up. They want to get a can of spray paint and go,
yeah.
and they want to spray paint our green forest purple.
Purple. Well,
Is that-
apparently
is
it's in use. It's not.
It's not just here.
But it's not
Right.
recognized, or it's not legally recognized.
So the supporters of this bill seem to think that everybody knows this, and and we were not aware. But they said it's better because signs fall off.
Well, I agree
You
with
know,
that part of
and
it, yeah.
you know, and
It wears
they're
off
plastic.
much faster than a sign.
Yeah, and if you sell your property, and it's just not
It's
practical.
permanent.
It's permanent, and
It's permanent if it stays and isn't weathered off, right?
But
Right.
And like you said, if you sell your property and somebody else wants to allow
Maybe they
hunting
don't like purple.
or
Right.
whatever,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
so you know, and it also doesn't have anybody's name on it. It's there
Yeah,
with
who
the sign
marks
you
this?
could say no
Yeah.
hunting,
Right,
but
you put
it's
the
open
number,
to other
yeah.
things.
Yep.
So with the purple, there's no contact information.
So there would
It's
have
not-
to be a big marketing thing going on to tell people about it and let people know. And if you happen to be from out of state and you came, you'd have no idea
Right.
what it meant.
And so the law would recognize it as an indicator of no trespassing.
Right.
But would the law also present penalties and recourses for landowners? Who,
Right. There's a lot
would
of
it?
yeah. I mean, if
and
it
what
was
would
passed,
the penalty be
the
for,
same.
for accidentally
You'd have to-
not seeing a purple on that tree because you didn't paint every single
Right.
tree in
The
your
penalty
forest?
would be you have to watch Barney every day
Right.
for 2 months.
Yeah.
That would be the penalty. I could see
Yeah.
it coming. I can see that coming. That's a
then-
weird. That's really. Has it gone through committee already?
Yeah, and we voted no.
Yeah, we hope so.
And then, you know, there was the bill voluntarily putting your name on a no-sell list at a gun shop. So if somebody was in you know, mental health crisis,
Right.
and they didn't feel safe purchasing a gun, they can go to their gun store and be put on a no-sell list.
So who would put them on the no-sell list?
They would put themselves
You have
on.
to put yourself on it.
So, yeah. So if you were suffering a mental health crisis and you just didn't feel safe, you know, having a weapon, you can go to your gun shop and say, have
Don't
them
sell
put you on
me,
the
yeah.
NCIS list of a no sell list. So I know. So
That's really.
There's
Yeah.
a whole bunch of issues with
there
that.
is,
that
there is, yeah.
It needs to go in the trash.
It did.
So
I
it
don't
did.
even have to. I don't have to
Good, that's
discuss those
2
issues
for
with
2.
my audience.
No.
They know exactly why I don't
Right.
like that.
Exactly.
So it was another gun grab attempt, you know.
So these are. Yeah, go ahead.
And so the presenter of the bill said, "Oh, you know,
And how
it
do
would
you
save
get off of
lives."
it?
That was the big thing. The big thing was,
Yeah.
they said that after like 21 days, you can go and have your name removed, and that sounds fine on the state level, but federally there was no requirement for them to take you off the no-sell list. So
Right.
you basically could be there forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of
That's-
any type of.
So you're 2 for 2 so far, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of the feds, did you see the ATF's clown show of a interview on one of the networks? There was the head of the ATF, one of his firearms experts, and I want to say CBS, an interviewer, and they stood at a table like this with a whole bunch of firearms, and
Did you see this?
No.
I didn't either.
and they were explaining why all of these things should be illegal, right? And
Oh,
they were calling a 50-round drum a clip, right? Which, you know, at some point, yes, in World War II,
Right.
before any of us were born, well,
Yeah,
most of us.
I wasn't quite
I'm
born
pretty
then.
sure you know. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right after, but not.
They did have clips for the M1 Garand.
No.
But it's been 60 or 70 years since we've manufactured firearms that take clips. It's a magazine,
Right.
right? And when we talk about the capacity of a magazine, the head of the ATF needs to know the language.
You would
You would,
think.
yeah, you would think they
Right.
did, right?
And then they went to show, oh well, all these parts on these things are interchangeable, and you have these ghost guns with no. And so they were picking up frames and calling the frame the gun, and then the firearms expert that he had there. So let me show you how easy it is to disassemble this one and switch parts up so that there's no serial number. And he picks up a Glock 19.
Which I have. Go ahead.
Which is literally the easiest firearm on planet Earth to disassemble in a
It is.
matter of about a second and a half.
Yep.
And this expert
Expert.
from the ATF was, and you're just sitting there, and it's so painful to watch. These are the people who want to take our guns away from us. They don't know what they're doing. And then the expert picks up the gun and he's holding it and he's pointing it at his own self and through his
gosh.
hand. And like, what firearms expert would have? Like, I've
And he's
almost gotten
legit.
divorced for telling my wife not to point an empty gun at her own head. Oh, I've already checked it. It doesn't matter. That's not the point.
Right.
And then you see this ATF expert just acting like a clown with all of these firearms. It's just
How did he get into that position?
And then they said, "Oh yeah, well we don't keep track of of firearm sales. It's illegal for us." All right, and they have to say that out loud.
Yeah.
Because they're not legally allowed to. But we have evidence, and we've presented evidence on this show that the feds are keeping that database of firearm sales.
Without, yes.
And that's where I get into this. Once you put your name on a list for the feds, they will never take it off.
No,
ever.
and we, one of our committee members, Janvin, presented a bill where stores can't use a code to identify what purchases you make as far as guns and ammunition. It has to be a general merchandise code so that your credit card and bank won't have a list of what you buy.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, some of the credit cards are stores
Identify.
Credit
Right,
card
right.
companies are doing that.
Yeah,
right?
and yes.
We've been warned about that. I'm not an advocate of this store, but shooters are
Which
right
everybody
here,
goes to, right.
Right. Everybody who's familiar with the firearms world in this area knows what shooters
Yes.
is.
Sure.
right? You go into shooters, they have. They will look at your credit card as you're handing it to them and say, we won't take that credit card because we know they track you.
Right.
Right.
Good for them, right.
So they warn you
Yeah.
that you're handing them a card that you're being tracked,
Right.
and so they don't do business. They deliberately don't do business with these particular type
I didn't know
And that
companies that they
bill,
know.
this bill would stop that, would not allow, like an outpost or whatever
Yeah.
to ascribe a code so the
So
credit cards
what,
could.
where is that now? That bill?
It's going to go to the
It's going to
floor.
go to the floor. What, and let us know when
Yes,
it is, right? 'Cause-
yeah.
Well, it's too late, you can't testify, but at
Right.
least it'd be interesting to see.
yeah.
The other question I would have is, has anybody brought up anything about these printers that you can print out?
Oh, the 3D printers?
Yeah. Has anything come up regarding that? Do we have any 3D printers around?
I'm sure.
I know how
yeah.
to get one,
You guys
get
probably,
parts. I mean,
you probably know how to do
I don't
that.
know
I
anyone.
have no comment.
I don't know anyone.
I'm lucky if I can get my printer to print
I don't know
at all.
anybody who has one, and I don't think HP is doing it, but that's been pretty interesting for me to watch. I
Yes.
mean, just some of the things they can do. And
What you can print out with some of these 3D printers,
as you've
is,
been told,
is nothing more than you can already go into the store and buy.
Okay.
All right, it prints parts,
Right,
right,
right.
but it prints plastic parts,
right?
right. The majority of what makes a firearm work is metal parts, springs,
Right.
right, springs and flat steel that are bent and cut into certain shapes and sizes.
The reason why I asked
and
this,
all of those things are available from non-firearm stores. I can go get a spring to replace something inside of a Glock
Yeah.
from any hardware store.
Yeah.
Right? It's a matter of
well, no, what I
sourcing
was
things.
kind of,
And when you get these printers they can print whatever you can dream up
Right.
that fits on the print bed.
but didn't
including a lower for, say, a Glock.
yeah,
right?
but the question is, so
is it
if I want
enough?
to, yes, it's
Right.
sturdy enough, but it can be, you can put it, you can get it on a plane. You know, you can get that gun on a plane. I'm just thinking of.
But you can't anymore.
No, yeah.
See, that was the big thing. When Glocks first came out in the 1980s, oh, it's a plastic gun. It's going to get through all the metal
no.
detectors. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because you have to have enough metal support inside there in
To
order
keep it work, to make
And
it
that
work.
Exactly.
shape is so identifiable.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then nowadays it's X-rays and this whatever you want to call it. It's not purely X-rays. It's the scanners that you go through. You
right.
can see
everything.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the extreme other end. It doesn't matter what you bring to the airport and what you cover it up with. They're going to see right
They're
through
gonna
it.
find it, sure.
And
Yes.
to the point where people are complaining that somebody's looking at these images and seeing nude pictures of people, right?
Right.
You see examples of them on, and they are very, very intimate. And so you can't, even if you printed something, it's going to look like a firearm no matter,
Right.
right? You can't just piece it together. You can't just have a bunch of Lego pieces that don't look like a firearm, put them together and have a firearm.
Right.
You have to build large enough pieces that are sturdy, right?
To
and
handle
then you
that
still have to
velocity, yeah.
reinforce it with the steel parts.
Yeah. It's,
But
you know, I'm
I
sure somebody
thought
out there could do it, but
Yeah.
getting it through the ear.
I thought I heard something recently though that somebody was, they printed out guns and they killed a couple of people and there was no way to track it. And
Well,
I didn't hear
there's the printing. It's not very reliable, but you can still buy what they call them ghost guns. But
yeah,
they're-
ghost guns. That's what
Yes,
it was about.
But
Ghost guns. That's right.
The ATF has long, and the federal government has long said that as long as something is 80% or less complete, meaning that you as a skilled engineer, you have to complete this thing. You have to drill the things out. You have to mill the things out. Milling and drilling are two different things.
Yeah.
And you have to have a certain set of skills in order to do that. You've got to be basically a gunsmith, right? And it can be a self-taught skill, but it's not as nearly as easy as
You
they
have to
say
have,
it is.
the right equipment for milling and drilling.
Right.
You know, it's a complicated thing. But wasn't there a gun in the olden days, a zip gun that you
Yeah,
could make?
zip guns.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you still
Yeah.
can.
When there's a will, there's a way.
right? And it's all perfectly legal,
Yeah.
right? The issue is the modern firearms, and I don't know, but they're really starting to overstep on that.
Yes,
but
they really want
I know what he was
lists.
asking. Is
Yeah.
the printers? Yeah, you can get some minor, smaller firearms printed out like that, but if you really want a firearm that's going to be able to handle hundreds and hundreds of rounds, right?
Yeah.
It's something that you're going to use more than a couple of times before it falls apart. You really do need to go with a manufactured
Yeah.
firearm.
Right. Right.
So what? So what other?
I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
We've had like 90 bills, and
Jeez.
we had some really long days to get through them. But we have had a bill where they want caregivers to not to have alternate sentencing. So if you had kids, or if you took care of an elderly family member, or one of the examples was a person had a blind neighbor and they were responsible for taking care of that person's medication. So if they go to jail, there's nobody to help this person with their medications. To me, if you're a caregiver for somebody, that's a deterrent to not commit
Why
a crime.
are you doing
Right,
things that are going
exactly.
to send you to jail?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
If you're that concerned about the person you're caring for, why are you doing things
Things
that are
going
going
to
to
put you in
to
jail. Yes, right. So
No,
it's on. It's a more of a push to, to not put people in jail. They
Right.
want to minimize everything.
What we need to do from here on forward is to take San Francisco's example. Right?
Oh, God.
No.
Go ahead.
You don't know where I'm going with this. San Francisco, yesterday, during the primaries, they just voted to reverse all of that garbage. Right? They're now saying, okay, we're going to start recriminalizing this, that, and the other. And a whole bunch of recriminalization bills, refunding the police bills,
Yeah.
See?
made it through the public yesterday because they're sick and tired of this stuff going the other direction.
I mean,
And we need to start
Yes.
people are coming here and say, you need to, be progressive like New York and California. No. They're already
No.
starting to turn that clock back.
I agree with you.
So we
Yes.
need to tell people when they show up and start using those, no. We're not going down that path because we've seen it. Not only did we predict it, now it's actually happened. We're not going there.
Yes, and New Hampshire, I mean, we still have a lot of people with a lot of common sense. It's not going to fly here.
Sure.
But we did see with the drugs, legalizing nominal amounts of drugs.
Right.
And in committee, I says, Portland, Oregon, did this. They legalized,
Everything.
small amounts of drugs and
Yeah.
harm reduction programs, and and they're trying to bring that here. And now Oregon's walking that back because it's a horrible failure. Overdose deaths have not been minimized, and they don't criminalize it. So if somebody's caught with these drugs and they're on the street, the cops don't even give them tickets or anything.
Right, right.
And it's not working. It's not. Businesses
Shocking.
are so.
It's shocking
so,
that
you're
it doesn't
right.
work.
And they want to bring it here. But like you said, the other states that have attempted these crazy things and are not working or walking them back, why are we trying to even consider it here?
Well, did you see what the governor of New York did today? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's got nothing to do with their bail policies, with their defunding the police
No,
policies.
we're going to send the National Guard, 850 members of the National Guard, and like 700 state troopers in the subways so that people feel safe. They're going to check bags.
They're doing bag checks at every
bag
subway
checks.
turnstile. They're doing bag checks now.
Yeah.
But it's got nothing to do with them defunding
Releasing
the police.
them,
It's
right.
nothing to do with bail reform. It's got nothing to do with all the illegal immigrants that are in town, right? If they had it their way, they'd say, "Oh, this is just in case MAGA goes nuts in the next couple of months," right? But,
Exactly.
But they're sending their National Guard to guard the subways
In
and
New
do
York.
bag checks
But
for everybody commuting.
So that's going to
New York
inconvenience the good people,
It
and
is.
and it's what they're seeing is people being pushed on the onto the platform
Oh, yeah.
in front of trains. That's
don't
not
need
a
a bag to do
bag-related
that.
thing, right?
Right.
How about that violinist and the woman came up and clocked the violinist on the back of the head with the violinist's water bottle. So she walked up, took his water bottle, clunked him, and walked away. And she had crimes of
Yeah, she had
this
committed
nature
crimes.
before.
Yep.
Right. And just no bag involved there. But these people just aren't charged. They're not.
Yeah.
They're just.
I'm anxious to hear all the great things our president did when he does the State of the Union
are you
campaign
gonna
message tomorrow.
I'm kind of afraid after that raging red and black debacle he did. You remember?
Yeah, I do remember
That was awful.
Yeah. The kid that was cheering for the Chiefs, right? One side he painted black.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that one. But it's amazing that it's so political. I mean, you can see what's coming. He just released something to the banks where he's going to drop your overcharge. You know when you forgot how much money you had in there and they charge you. It's $32 now. He just dropped it to $8 now. I don't know how he can do that. But that's what he said he was going to do.
Different banks have different rates.
Well, he's talking about
Why?
Because it can save the average citizen $250 a year in errors they make. Well, so that's number one. And let's see what other good things he's going to talk about. The border, more than likely, that he has solved the problem there with a stroke of a pen. He's going to close part of the border.
Did you see how they're solving it? So somebody submitted a FOIA request. And it turns out that the Biden administration, in order to relieve the amount of people going to the border from from Mexico, or they just decided, we're just going to fly them in.
Oh, I saw that.
320,000
yes.
have been flown
Flown in
in
at night.
by the federal government. Oh, you want to go to the United States? Jump on this plane. We'll fly you to New York.
Yeah, that's.
California.
Skip the border.
Yes. This is an invasion. Let's
my
call
Lord.
it what it is.
Yeah,
it's an
exactly.
invasion. And California now.
Supported by our own aircraft.
Yes, and you
That
know.
yeah.
So
We're supplying all the materials for this.
right, and California now is allowing, giving loans supposedly to illegals to buy houses.
Yeah, I saw that.
So it's, you know, but here in
Not just loans.
Money.
No. So it's up to $100,000.
I thought it was like more like 400.
No. It's 20% of the price of a home.
Right.
All right. So let's take the average price of a home, $500,000. Right. An illegal immigrant can get a loan for $100,000, no interest,
Right.
no monthly payments,
Right.
no payback until you sell the house.
Wow, I'm sorry I brought this up. We were talking about the state.
That's what they're giving to illegal immigrants. Oh, you're here illegally? Here, have a driver's license. Here's a credit card with $7,000 on it. Would you like to buy a house? Here's $100,000.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have to pay us back any of this, by the way.
Well,
Oh, and health insurance for you and your entire family.
right. And
food,
Americans are
food.
struggling. But here, it's happening in New Hampshire, Pelham,
that's
right?
what
So
we're
what
gonna
we
ask.
need to keep an eye on is they want to take workforce housing, also known as affordable housing, they want to take it out of local control and make it under the state. And they want to rezone for
Yep.
larger duplex, whatever.
Rent
And
control.
Well,
Well, not
it's
quite.
no, it's not. It's more a tomato, a rose by any other name, still a rose. It's affordable housing. So in Pelham, there is a four barrack buildings going up to house like 486 migrant men to work for a garden center in Pelham. And everybody should know that you got to keep an eye on what's happening in your community. So it's 4 barracks that will house 486 illegal migrant men to work for this nursery. So they submitted zoning for that, zoning application or whatever, and I think that people should know, that
There's a nursery in Pelham
nursery.
that employs
That many
over
people.
400 people.
It's a part of a bigger company. So there's a bigger company that is. I have it's on. You can Google it. It's in Pelham. It's on my phone. Actually. Let me bring it up. So that I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, we're supposed to let you talk about what you wanted. So I'm sorry I brought that up, but it's just, I can't wait to see. One of the things he's going to say
We're
seriously.
done with the absurd
Here
Yeah,
it
yeah.
because everything
absurd.
is absurd.
So here we go. It's 256 foreign males to occupy dormitory-style facilities to be built at the end of 4th Range Road and Borough Road. The site plan for these 4 buildings has passed the Pembroke Zoning Board without any abutters present to oppose it. We did not receive an abutters letter to notify us. And it goes on to say that, immediate attention is needed.
How much notice was actually given, and was it given in earnest to?
Well, there
any of the
wasn't, you
abutters?
said.
No,
right.
no. So this is out there for anybody.
I don't
Well,
like
it's
those.
like-
I don't like those games that towns play either, right? We'll put out a notice, and it's
Well,
just
like-
got to be public notice. So we'll just stick it on the billboard at the local hardware
Yeah.
store, and there's your public notice, right? And they play those games,
Yeah.
right? The Ferry Association in Maine, right? They deal with the ferries that
Yeah.
go back to back and forth to the islands. They're looking to revamp the entire ferry service, right? And the people who are most affected by the ferry service in Maine are the people who live on the islands,
Yeah, commuters.
right?
Right.
And the people who live on the islands, that are going to be the most affected, didn't really have a chance to show up to this meeting. So they posted the meeting. And the meeting's going to be at noontime on a Tuesday.
Everybody's
Right.
at work.
Everybody's at work, and
The ferry doesn't run.
the ferry runs less often during that period of
Right.
time. And half the ferries, one of the purposes of the meeting was because of the ferries are always out of service. So how many ferries are going to be out of service? How many of these islanders are going to be stuck on the islands?
Right.
But it's that type of game that
Yes,
people play, and it
yes.
feels like that's what they did with
Yes.
this with this in Pelham.
Yeah,
it feels
in
like that's
Kittery-
exactly what they did.
They were talking about Kittery the other day, where they're going to tear
Yes,
down.
the trading post, yeah.
Well, I don't know whether it's the trading posts or the what are the discount places all around. I don't know.
Right,
whether
it's part of that shopping center.
Yeah, it's part of shopping,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure they're taking the trading post down.
I
are
think they are, yeah.
To put up these, these buildings for people. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why can, it's obviously your vote counts when it comes to getting people on zoning boards, if you even vote for them. Because in some towns in New Hampshire, you don't vote for those people. They're volunteers,
Right.
but they like control, so they stay on there forever, and there's no way to get them
But
off.
it's with everything that we have going on right now on a local level and the state level, people need to be aware and to participate in their, in their local
Yeah.
communities and see what's going on, because otherwise, you're going to be blindsided by things and you're not going to know about it.
Yeah, until it's too late.
So,
So what other fun things, maybe not in your committee even, that you can tell us
it's
about?
a very active place right now, the State House. We have a lot going on. We had the right to work.
Which never passes.
No, it didn't, and it failed by a large margin, which was interesting.
Yeah, well, when Gary was here, he was not against it. He was for. He was against right to
Yeah,
work.
he was against
Yeah.
right.
So for
Because
some,
he spent most of
go
his
ahead.
career as a union worker
Right.
at a machine shop.
Right.
Yeah,
right?
I'm
So
against right to work.
Yep.
Yeah.
It works for some people. There are pros and cons to unions.
Sure.
Unions have their place, but we also see unions get corrupt. And,
Like the teachers union, yeah.
And you see
Well,
these things happen.
In Dartmouth players now just voted for a union, basketball players.
Yes, they were the first one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I don't know whether that's going to go anywhere, but if it does, then they're considered a worker of the college. So not only are they probably getting a free education, but now they have health care and all the things that go along with
Right.
somebody that works in a cafeteria maybe
Right.
or whatever. And it will change amateur sports drastically. Because as soon as that happens, they're no longer amateurs. They're professionals. So I can see that amateur sports are just going to go away. Who wants to watch?
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Isn't
Yeah, I
there
mean-
something even bigger going on with the NCAA in that, or is that?
No, that's the thing. Yeah, that's Charlie Baker, I think, former governor of Massachusetts. He's in charge of that now, and which surprised me, he's kind of let that go on its own, on its own track. And I just heard that last night, and I'm thinking this is not good for amateur sports. It's terrible because there was a coach from. I'm not sure. He's a senator now. He's a coach. He was a coach for Auburn, I think, at one time. And he said, I watched it today on Fox News, and he said, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. So you have the playoffs coming. They're going to strike right before the playoffs and get more money and get more things they want. And he's probably right, because that's what happens when you have unions and government take over that.
March Madness, well, we're going to strike right before it, and
Right.
you better give us money, or else
Yep.
all of that March Madness and all those brackets are useless to you.
Yeah.
But what prompted them to want to unionize in the first place?
There was one girl and one guy at Dartmouth, and they had talked about this, saying, Dartmouth makes so much money from us playing, and it brings in X number of dollars, and they should share that money. So let me tell you a little bit about
Right.
Dartmouth.
They are sharing that money. You're getting a free education out
Right.
of it.
And here's the
That's your share.
Well, and who's going to? Yeah,
That's your $150,000, $200,000 share.
But how about
for
the
playing basketball?
Yeah, and who's going to pay for the facilities? You're going to have. Are the unions going to pay for the facilities? No. So they're going to continue to do that, and so that's what happened. They started, and they got the team stuck together. All 15 of us voted, and we want a union. And they brought it to the president of the college, and of course they said, "Hold up a minute now. We're not quite ready to do this." And somebody said that it will take 6 or 7 years going through legal things if they're even going to get it done. And because once they do it, an Ivy League school does it. So here's the thing about Dartmouth that not everybody might know. If you are smart enough to get into Dartmouth and you don't have money and you're not an athlete, you go for free. They pay your entire
Wow,
education.
okay.
So that's the wrong people to be picking on to try to have a union in. I mean, so what's What is Dartmouth going to do then? I mean, I really don't know, but maybe it'll take that benefit away. And you're right. They're getting a college education, a free college education, and I'm so against this going on this way because they're no longer amateurs and they shouldn't be allowed to do this. I mean, go to school for the right reasons and, don't let the government get involved with that.
We've seen amateur sports start to go downhill. I think it started in the 90s. It's because you get all these people who want to get paid, right, and they're still in college,
Yeah,
right?
so
And they start getting sponsorships and they draw up the contracts in such a way that, they can still remain an amateur. But something happened in the late 80s or early 90s, maybe it was the early 90s. It was an Olympic year. And a whole bunch of NBA players, including Michael Jordan,
Right.
basically retired temporarily in order to play for the U.S. Olympic team.
Hockey, too.
As amateurs, right? And so, wait a minute, that totally dispels the entire notion of the Olympics being an amateur sport, being an amateur event. That's the whole point of it.
Right. But the Russians did that for years.
Right.
They were professionals.
Well,
were
and
playing
that's exactly
hockey.
the excuse.
And that was the reason.
Used,
Yeah, we wanted to get back at
right?
them.
And so now.
So
that to me was kind of the beginning of the end of amateur sports, because from there on out, everybody could find a way to get paid and still compete in amateur classes.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my opinion. That's when I saw Michael Jordan playing the amateur Olympics. That's when I said, no, that's not amateur anymore. Like that's when things went downhill there.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all they just saw the money being made and they want a piece of it.
Yeah.
And what union would pick them up? I mean, what?
Well, it's whatever the union is. It's
the school
pretty
union.
embedded in.
Right.
It's the cafeteria workers and people that work
this
the grounds and
is
stuff.
where my differences with Gary came into being with unions
Yeah.
and right to work. Is that you ask what union will pick him up? Well, what union wouldn't? What union out there doesn't want more members paying dues, right? So somebody's going to pick them up, right? There's going to be a players' union somewhere that's going to pick them up. Or a players' union that's going to get spun off of one of the bigger unions.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it's just.
But
anyway.
that's my answer. What
Right.
union wouldn't want more members?
So right to
And
work.
You start with an
Yeah.
Ivy League team. You get now you just exploded into the entire.
No, with the unions, I mean, the leadership is, the leadership is the leadership. But I just feel, that the workers need protections, especially nowadays. There's
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah,
Like I
my
said,
dad
they have
was
their
in the
place.
union.
But there are certain things that unions get a bad rap here, but then they get a good rap here.
Right.
I'm kind of in the middle. I may lean one direction or another, but I'm kind of in the
But
middle.
you know what, too? Being not a right-to-work state like Connecticut is a right-to-work state, I'm thinking with all these people, and down south where my daughter lives in North Carolina, there's no unions down there. And, with all the people coming in, these companies are just going to pick once the federal government gives them their work visas or their right to work, things are going to change. Businesses are going to be hiring illegal labor at a fraction of the cost, and I'm hoping that the unions will fight against that and keep the jobs for Americans.
And that's where I don't understand what's going on. Why aren't the unions doing that now? Why aren't the unions
Pushing
who
back.
typically are huge donators to the Democrat Party, right?
Well, they gave Trump a huge donation.
But you see what I'm saying?
I do, and I have to scratch my head on that.
Why
I know.
aren't they all over the Biden administration about these illegal immigrants coming in?
I know. But
And
again,
I mean, and OSHA should be all over it too. OSHA and all the
I know.
unions should be all over this garbage.
Yep.
And they should be all over the administration.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how this plays out. It could, but I hope that the unions, I hope that they are aware enough to see what the threat is and do what needs to be done.
So you don't have to answer this question, but this always has kind of stuck in the back of my mind. So like the police union in in Manchester is supporting, well, not Manchester, the whole state is supporting Joyce Craig. So will,
that's right,
for governor. Yeah. So will the members actually vote for her because the leader says, I've always wondered that, because you don't go into the booth with them.
Right,
I mean, it's
right,
not like,
right.
so you can say, oh yeah, I got your back, buddy, you know. And,
I know.
Right?
No,
They don't have to.
No.
And my experience is
They don't.
They don't.
they don't.
I wouldn't think so, but that's all.
I know, but I don't understand the thought process there myself. You know, as soon as Biden got into office, he shut down the pipeline, which, you know, shut out so many high-paying union jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but who knows the
backroom
deals.
stuff.
Yeah. But I don't, you know, we just need to protect American jobs.
Yeah.
And whatever that may look like, I don't know. So I was happy to see that most of the House voted right to work down.
Yeah.
So, because I got called out on it, you know, why did you vote against right to
of
work?
course.
And, you know, because I don't think it was in the best interest of my constituents to be to vote for right to work.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a huge
that's pretty
case
much
to be
what
made
Gary
that
said
if,
too.
If
Yeah.
an organization is a union shop, if the organization is already union, and you choose to work there, right to work is basically, I can work here and I don't have to pay union dues.
Right.
That's what right to work is.
Right.
Pretty much.
But
yeah.
if you work in a union shop and you don't pay your union dues, the union is still fighting for you.
Right.
You are still experiencing
Yeah.
the benefits
Of
of
them
the
getting
union
bigger.
having negotiated
Right.
your salary
Yes,
for you.
all the benefits
having
of- yes.
negotiated your benefits, right? And so maybe if something happened on the job, the union's not going to come to your aid. But all of those other things, your paycheck and your benefits, were all negotiated
right.
by the union. And so there's something to be said there that if you choose to work for a union shop, that's your choice.
Right.
Right? We're not saying that you can't go get a job somewhere else where that's not union. But if you so that's the argument for or against right to work, is that the union has
You can pick where you
created
wanna go.
benefits.
Right, right.
For
And
you.
you know, and there's protections and stuff in a union shop, and you just don't have that down south, you know, in
No, you
states that don't have unions, you know, you may get some nice pay, you may not, you may get benefits, you may not, you may get them only.
So talking about down south,
Yes.
let's talk about Massachusetts for a minute.
Way down south.
The teachers went on strike.
Yes.
It's against the law
Yes.
for them to go on strike. So they went on strike for 10 days or something. And the ones who really suffered from that were the kids, because between
that's-
COVID
that's
and
where-
everything else.
If
I
it's
remember
against the law to go on strike,
Yeah, but they let
then you
them do-
lose your job, right? There's a famous incident where somebody did that, right? When all the air traffic controllers
Yes, I
yeah.
remember.
went on
yes.
Some
strike.
president did
and,
that. He
Yeah,
said-
yeah. And said, well,
We're going to fire them
you
all.
blew it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Goodbye.
right.
Right? That's what should happen every time that happens.
Well,
I
you
think
know,
it
But
should.
they can't get anybody to fill them. They can't get anybody to fill it. So if they fire them, they're
Well,
going to have
I-
nobody to
well,
work.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, it might be a little different.
but it needs to be underscored that it was illegal for them to do that. They affected more than their own jobs.
Well,
right?
here's the
them going on strike is not just about them.
No, they impacted
But
the
they
families.
made it
the
about
families,
them.
yeah.
They tried
Yeah.
to make it about them, and that was the problem.
Yeah.
That's why I say
that bugs me.
a penalty needs to exist there.
Right.
Yeah, and it does go to court, and I do think that, you know, there is some legal,
Well, there's over.
you know,
there was like
the judge
300 and
forces them
something-
back, yeah.
But there was something like $333,000 that they had to pay for
Yeah.
being out. So where does that money come from? It comes from the dues, right, of the
All they're
people in
doing
the
is hurting
union,
themselves.
correct?
I know,
It
yeah,
just-
yes,
it's-
and the arbitration
Yeah.
is very, very expensive. When you're out on strike, those the lawyers, you know, arbitrators
make
are
all the
very,
money.
yeah, they do.
Yeah,
There's
I
a lot
mean,
of money in there.
Yeah. So I probably got into the wrong business. I should have been
Yeah, you should have been a union arbitrator. But-
union arbitrator. So that's the fun one that came up. What other bills? I've tried to keep track of them, but not being there, you know, there's some that get me excited or angry, but there's others that I think, why did they vote that in? You know, why did
Right.
that happen?
You know,
The thing that must be tough, and I'm asking this, is that since the Republicans don't have that majority. They do, but what's that, 4 seats now?
Yes, but we
Right.
have a problem with the Democrats are very unified and they
Yep.
show up no matter what.
Yep.
We have trouble with our people showing up
Yeah.
for job reasons or whatever, and we need to get better at our numbers.
Yeah,
our
so-
representatives showing up.
So I was one of the whips when I was
Yes,
in there, but,
uh-huh.
but the head person was Al Baldessero.
Mm-hmm.
So if I couldn't get him, Al would call me and said, "Did you get him? Did you or her?
Right,
Did you get them to
right.
come?" And I said, "I'm gonna have a little problem." He goes, "I'll take care of it."
Right.
So if you know Al, you'd understand that. Like, he's not going to let him not come. But it was difficult then too. But it seems strange to me that you would run for a position that you're not totally committed to. Now, you will miss some days for health or snow. I mean, we were open all the time during all the snowstorms. They never closed us down. We had to be there.
Right.
They kept us there till 4 in the morning.
I
Once
heard
locked
about
the
those
doors.
days, right.
So you had to be there, right? But when I testified the other day for the committee, the Aggie committee, there were supposed to be 20 representatives on there. There were 9 missing. Now, but again, there was another bill going on, what we talked about earlier
In finance,
before we got
yeah.
on, in finance, which I'm sure they felt was, in their head, was more important, that this one was going to go away, it wasn't going to go anywhere. But finance is a whole different thing. That's part of the problem too,
Right,
I think, right?
and the beauty about New Hampshire House is that it's a volunteer legislators. So
Sure.
these people are paid $100 a session, $200 a biennium,
Yep.
and they have jobs. This is a
A lot of them do,
volunteer
right.
thing. So they still have to show up for work and meetings and travel and
Yep.
business. And you can always go back and watch your hearings and testimonies, but you should be there for executive session. And if you know you're
Yep.
going to be out, you get a sub.
Yes.
Where we need the people to show up the most is on voting day and session days.
Executive day, right.
And when it's session day, like we're at the State House tomorrow for session, we need our bodies there.
Yeah.
So if we always do well when people show up.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
yeah.
And I'm certainly not, I know what it takes. I
Mm-hmm.
know how hard it is to, it's a tough job. You're getting paid $100. Sometimes you say, why did I do this for $100? I mean, but it has to be in your heart. You really have to believe in what you're doing.
Exactly.
And you have to believe you're going to make a change.
Right.
And you can in a state like New Hampshire because it's small enough to make that change. And there's so many people that, it does work. It does work.
Yeah,
we
it
can't
does.
win every time, but I'm hoping that next year when it comes time to vote everybody in again, that we do better because we're going to need to. The way things are going in the country, things are changing. And we need more conservative people there that their core value is a conservative. But they also have to serve their constituents because you're not just serving Republicans, you're serving other people, but you still stay to your core value and you discuss it with them, right? I mean, if somebody in your town, it's happened to me more than once, doesn't like the way you're voting and you explain to them why, you can pretty much come to an agreement that, look, you're going after something I believe strongly in, but maybe we can find some common ground
Right.
somewhere else, and that's how you have to do it. Otherwise, you fail, right?
Right. Our House, all the legislators that that I talk with are so incredibly committed to their to what they do. We have legislators working tirelessly on all kinds of really important issues with DCF,
Right.
with the American Libraries Association, with the school porn, with everything. They are working tirelessly for these things. I don't really, I'm sure there's some that aren't as involved, but for the most part, these legislators work hard for their community. And the beauty is that each one knows their district and the issues in the district, and that's what they're bringing to the State House, is they're bringing these issues from their community, and they're fighting very hard to make change. And it's an uphill battle. One of them that isn't talked about a lot is the American Library Association. We have some representatives working really hard to get New Hampshire out of the American Library Association. And
Why is that?
Why is it? Because it's a Marxist organization
Okay.
that's pushing a Marxist agenda,
Right.
and they want to indoctrinate the communities, and they're pushing the porn in schools, and the president is a self-proclaimed Marxist.
Oh, jeez.
And it's really not where we want to spend our money. So it's really hard to get out of it, because the libraries are getting continuing ed, they're getting support, they're getting funds, they're getting all kinds of things from the American Library Association, and people don't realize how insidious the message is. So they
wow.
went to, you know, there's a lot going on, and it's not really getting anywhere right now. So hopefully it'll get some traction, and we will be able to get New Hampshire out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about that at all. I mean, it'd be
Yep.
nice if, you know, by bringing people on here, we can learn more
Right,
about that
right,
stuff,
right.
because that's not, you know, on the top line of what you're thinking about in the state, right?
But
Any money coming in from out of state or from some national organization with an agenda
Right.
is bad for me.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
Even if it's purported to be a conservative organization, I really have to look at where this money is coming from and what the ultimate purpose is, because
Right.
because the ultimate purpose is not for the benefit of the people of
No.
New Hampshire. The ultimate purpose is for reshaping the thought process
Exactly.
of people in the United States as a whole.
And kids
That's
start,
always
yes.
the purpose, no matter where the money comes from.
Right, and we've received so much pushback, you know, from all angles to remain in the ALA. That's one thing that's quiet going on behind the scenes. There's just a lot. DCF.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
been. I saw one of our reps, Leah Cushman,
Yes.
who wants to swear these people
Yes.
in, and why wouldn't you swear them in
Right.
before you talk to them, before you you know, ask them questions? And
Yes.
I praise her for that.
Yes.
And that's great. That's the kind of thing.
She's one of the representatives that's working really hard.
Yeah.
Just all the representatives fighting the school budgets and the town budgets, and just all kinds
Yeah.
of work going on behind the scenes that people aren't really
Well,
aware of.
We really appreciate the work you do.
Yeah, it's I love it. I do think we do a lot of good things.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes we get hate mail. I've got my first hate email. I had to look up some of
took
the
you how
words.
long
I
did it-
know.
I got mine right away.
I had to look up some
My
of what they
first
called me.
session, my mailbox was loaded, you know,
Yeah.
and you could tell they were, you know, I sat down at Dunkin' Donuts and all wrote them out, because I was in there one day
It's
when they did that.
surprising nowadays.
Yes,
Really? Yeah.
If a conservative is elected and they don't have hate mail on day one,
You
right?
lose.
That's surprising, right? I mean, you should have hate mail just because they assume who you are,
Right,
Right.
right.
Well,
so it's surprising that you haven't gotten any.
You know, it's fly under the radar. Be quiet. you
It's
know?
hard for an Italian to keep their mouth
Yeah.
shut. I can say that. You know, you
Yeah.
speak out because your heart's worn on your sleeve, but
Right.
you can't close the mouth. You know,
No.
it's like. But anyway.
Yeah, so, and then I presented a bill for guidelines in sex health, and we, you know, drafted the legislation, and OLS,
Yeah.
you know, wrote it, and it got interim study, you know, it'll
Yep.
be brought back. Glenn Cordelli will bring
Glenn,
it back.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Right.
needed work, but here's the thing. Had I known this back when I was working on this, things may have been different. But the Democrats have lobbyists come in and write their bills
Yes.
for them. I could have had a lobbyist come and
Yep.
write this legislation, because we're not lawyers, you know. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of fine points in there that
Yeah,
could have
somebody should have